question for all Americans. Where did all the money go? That's a big question. Why has our economy bottomed out? Was it by chance? Was it by accident? Was it by mistake? I don't think so. There is something called the secret space program, which was an outgrowth of the discoveries in the 1940s and 1950s of crashed UFO craft that were recovered. The first recovery that I know of occurred in 1940. It was not Roswell. 7 years before Roswell, an alien craft crashed in Port Girardeau, Missouri. The local townspeople saw the crash, came upon it, and pulled out the pilots. And these were such good Christian, God-fearing people that even though they recognized that the pilots were foreign, they called a minister to come and administer the last rites to these poor creatures. And a certain Reverend Hoffman was called, and he took off. He met the chief of police, and he saw the body of an alien. And so the Army came in and took over the scene. They took the craft, they took the body. That was 1940. In 1947, we all know about the Roswell crash, but there were two other crashes that year, one in Kingman, Arizona, and an earlier one that occurred in April. These crafts were recovered. So this resulted in a spurt of activity to reverse engineer these craft. There was an official investigation that was called Project Sign. This was the first investigation into the Roswell crash. And the conclusion of Project Sign was that we were being visited by people from outer space that had a higher level of civilization and technology than we did. But when this report arrived in Washington to the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Hoyt S. Vandenberg, he said, "We cannot accept this conclusion. Write another paper." And so that paper was quashed, and Project Grudge was initiated, which evolved into Project Blue Book in order to keep track of UFO activities, UFO interaction with human beings, and at the same time to cover it up, which is what Project Grudge and Project Blue Book were primarily assigned to do. Catalog all the UFO events, the sightings, the landings, the evidence, procure it all, silence the witnesses. And so that went on for a very long time. However, during the same period of time, UFO activity increased throughout the United States, and it's well known that they have had incursions into our military bases, our nuclear facilities, that they track nuclear submarines, and that they have a very great concern with nuclear weapons and what human beings intend to do with them. So some of them are guardian angels, and then others are not such guardian angels. Some of them were obviously during the 1950s and 60s trying to lure the United States and the Soviet Union into war with each other. So there we have it. We have one faction of aliens that wants to pit mankind against itself in order for us to destroy ourselves through self-immolation in a nuclear holocaust. And at the same time, there's another group of aliens that's showing itself as guardians, protectors of humankind at other times, but also giving stern warnings that should we ever be so foolish as to launch a nuclear missile at another country, we cannot be sure where that missile will land. The secret space program evolved out of this, the need for secrecy, hiding the facts of UFO and flying saucer activity, at the same time having to play catch-up with the civilization that was so far ahead of us that it was feared that if its presence were revealed, the Brookings Institution said that the scientists, doctors, and engineers of our society would be so depressed, so despondent, with the futility of having to catch up with a civilization that was at least 200 years ahead of us, that they would be so disheartened that they might not even get up to go to work the next morning. And that is it in a nutshell. That's a statement in the Brookings Institution report, that science and society would be destabilized by such a revelation. However, the military-industrial complex was not destabilized by any means. they were very stabilized and got to work on reverse engineering the products extracted from the crashed UFOs. This story can be read in Philip Corso's book, The Day After Roswell. Fiber optics, the maser, the laser, anti-gravitational propulsion, all of these things were found in the crashed Roswell disk, the crashed Aztec flying saucer, and several others that have been recovered since that time. So the United States government got to work alongside Canada, and the funding was funneled to the secret space program, and trillions of dollars were invested. And these trillions and trillions of dollars had to come from somewhere. And as a result, many government programs engaged in black operations. I'm sure you will have heard of many years ago there was an audit done, the United States Air Force and the United States military, and they were finding that the contractors were charging the United States government $1,500 for a hammer, $500 for a toilet seat. So I believe that this is the methodology where all of this money was skimmed off and hidden and funneled into this advanced, very rapid development program to try to catch up with the UFOs, to build our own UFOs based on their reverse engineered technology. And we have been successful. As a result, we have something called the Navy's 10th Fleet. It's masked as a cyber warfare organization, software and computer related. However, the Navy 10th Fleet is the name of a space fleet, which was discovered, by the way, by Gary McKinnon when he hacked into the NASA computers. He saw the list of 10th Fleet non-terrestrial officers. There were terrestrial officers and there was a list of non-terrestrial officers. Gary McKinnon made this publicly known and he suffered dearly for it. He was ultimately protected by the British Parliament that forestalled his extradition to the United States, where the United States government wanted to try him for hacking and spying and revealing classified knowledge. But the British people and the British Parliament protected Gary McKinnon, and he is safe and sound, probably still recovering from his ordeal in England. The secret space program is real. It is siphoning off our national resources, our national wealth, and preparing the public for what may turn out to be a fake alien invasion. That is a danger. That human beings may be wrought up with panic and fear through the use of MK Ultra mind control techniques in the mass media to make us believe that we are being invaded by people from outer space and that we must go to war with them, and that we must use nuclear weapons to fight them. Well, all of that would lead to self-immolation. That's going up in flames for those of you who don't know. Self-immolation, a very bad thing. So it is my hope that we will forestall this, that we will not fall into traps and ploys and false flag attacks and panic at the idea of being invaded by people from outer space. In fact, people from outer space are already amongst us. They've been amongst us for over 70 years. They walk amongst us unrecognized, some of them, and others don't show themselves in the daylight because no one could really bear their presence or their smell. That's been my experience. Certain extraterrestrials have not only a horrible appearance, but have a foul smell that will drive a person into panic. And it takes a very strong mind to hold itself together when assaulted, assailed by horrible smells that are sometimes described as sulfurous, sometimes described as it's something that's very, very damaging to the human being to be in the presence of these beings. And I do not recommend anyone trying